Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boy Benny.
Hello there.
It's just us two this week, friendo. Connor is away in the mountainous regions of Canada.
Hi, Connor.
How you doing, bro? I'm sure he's listening in, critiquing us.
No doubt.
What a week it's been, folks. We got a lot to catch up on in the world of movies. Disney Plus, we got some news and it's got a monster opening coming in November. Also some more Disney news about their quarterly earnings call. Bob Iger had a few things to say about Fox and the acquisition. We've also got some trailers later on and question of the week, an interesting one that references was actually a comment on our Marvel rankings episode, which is up right about now. That was a fun one, right?
It was contentious.
And it was long.
Oh, yeah. Marathon.
Yeah, I think that's about, across two episodes, about two and a bit hours. So, yeah, it was at a blistering pace, having to go through 23 movies. So yeah, anyway, we'll talk more about that later in Question of the Week. But before we get into the news, before we get into the trailers, it's time to catch up on what we've been watching. Benny.
Yes.
What have you seen this week, man?
So I have not watched much, to be honest. I've been watching Amazon Prime's The Boys.
Okay, you finished it up.
I finished it up.
Even with that HDR?
Oh, God. Yeah. If anyone knows how to turn that off, let me know, please.
HDR meaning the
high
screen,
high dynamic range, the high frame rate,
looks
super
weird.
ultra HD nonsense.
Yes.
Just makes it look so cheap. And I was really struggling to figure out whether I liked it or not, whether I was watching it or I hate watching it. Now, having watched it all and had a little time to settle on it, I've come to the conclusion that I really don't think it's any good. And I was just watching it out of morbid curiosity.
Cool.
Because the premise is kind of interesting, and there were a couple of elements that were all right. But
At least you're being honest with yourself.
Absolutely, I think that's important.
Yeah,
you know?
it's cathartic.
Yeah. Then I watched 6 seasons of Peaky Blinders. It's my favorite thing in the world, and I'm going to talk about it for 3 hours.
You're going to shave your head?
No. I also watched Hotel Artemis. This was a trailer we reviewed last year at some point.
Yes.
Sci-fi dystopia.
Sounds so familiar. Can't
Yeah,
picture it right now.
it's like a mob doctor in future LA, I think it is, played by Jodie Foster. Written and directed by Drew Pearce, who I have a soft spot for. He was the
the one with Hemsworth.
No.
Oh, which one was that one?
I do not know.
Oh, God.
Infinity War.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
Yep. Written by Drew Pearce, who is the co-writer of Iron Man 3 and writer-director of All Hail the King, a favorite little short film of mine. And it was completely very average and not amazing.
Okay.
Couldn't believe how good the cast was. Jodie Foster, as I said, Jeff Goldblum, Stephen K. Williams, Brian Tyree Henry, Zachary Quinto. Just like a ridiculously stacked cast for a movie that seems like it was shot for a very small amount of money by a studio who didn't want to make it. And it was really, unfortunately, just nothing special at all.
Damn. I mean, I'm looking at the images now and I can't even remember watching this trailer. It's got quite a distinct look.
Very good looking movie. Cool sound to it. Great performances all around. And somehow it just still can't rise up to be anything at all.
And the IPs, Lion King, that's the best shit ever. So,
Yeah. Maybe if it was a Disney remake, I would have liked it more.
Yeah.
So that was me for the week. Nothing good.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for steering us in the right direction. Or maybe not, because I watched Apostle this week.
Hey.
One you've been... We've been talking about this one for a while. This one came out this time last year. Or?
That was my number 10 favorite film last year, I think.
Wow, that's so interesting. So this is a Netflix film.
Directed by Gareth Evans.
Director of The Raid.
Yep.
And you can see it in some parts here. We briefly discussed that over a drink the other night.
It's kind of a period piece thriller, maybe horror. But it does have these weird moments where it slips into an almost action film.
One thing that I don't know why I thought this, but I thought it was like medieval. And when the film got going, I was like, okay, we're in a different time period. So immediately I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. This is different to what I expected. And a lot of the film was kind of like that. It was I had a sort of image of what I thought this film was going to be, and it went in a lot of different directions and was quite fascinating.
Yeah, before you finish up where you're going, I will say the one thing I remember about watching that movie is, I think I said this on the podcast, I've never had less of an idea of where a movie is going as it progresses.
100%.
Which I really appreciate.
And it's edge of your seat stuff. There, especially in the front half, this guy's kind of sneaking around this village, and I was squealing away like a 12-year-old girl. It was very effective and very well constructed in terms of like the suspense. I thought in the back half of the film, it kind of devolved a little bit for me. So much so that, I don't know, it almost like got that Bird Box feeling like, oh, what the fuck?
I won't entirely disagree. I definitely just mostly the ending, I was like, I wasn't sure what it all amounted to, but the experience of it overall, I was so enamored with.
I thought, and you know what was interesting as well is for another really surprising thing about it that I appreciated a lot was this film was hyped and hyped and hyped about how much gore it had and certain torture sequences and how it was gruesome and whatnot.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
That's sprinkled in there.
Because Connor, I got your back, buddy, he was concerned that this might be sort of a torture porn thing.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it was at all.
I didn't either.
And like, nothing really that violent happens for 45 minutes. And the first violent thing is like, it's not what you're thinking it's going to be, like some limbs, sawn off or something. So that was nice to have that from where I expected it to get really gruesome. When it did get gruesome,
got pretty gruesome.
It got pretty damn gruesome. And it was a problem I had with the film was it didn't know quite which camp it was in. Where was it in ultra realism camp, which it was doing extremely well, or was it in more cartoony, like the spear bit that you talked about? That was more like action movie. So it was sort of straddling this line, and I don't think it quite decided which one it wanted to end up in. And that's not a problem, but just like the tone of it wasn't quite there for me. So I thought about this film a lot, and that shows me that it was effective in some way. I don't think it was across the board successful, but I'm glad I watched it, and somehow it was better than I was expecting, but and worse in ways that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
So overall, it's surprising, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that was definitely mostly my experience of it. But like I said, just so different, that is one of my highest criteria for a movie, is just something a bit out there, a bit different, surprising. And Gareth Evans, I'm so interested in. I would just wish he'd make more movies.
What's next?
And honestly, for me, he is one of, if not the most successful director for Netflix, who's just gone and made like a sort of a semi-named director who's just gone carte blanche on Netflix and made whatever they want to make. For me, that's ended poorly in almost every case, except for that mostly.
I tend to agree with that.
So I would like to even see him stick with Netflix a bit and just keep making weird shit.
Hopefully he does. Another one I watched that I briefly mentioned on last week's episode, but I just wanted to touch base with you quickly, was The Invitation. So you've been recommending this to me for a while.
Yeah.
And that's gone in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. That's how it happens. But yeah, this was absolutely one of my complete favorite movies of that year. When I finally got around to seeing it, I'd been hearing about it for ages, but had been so careful not to know anything about it because it just seemed like one of those movies.
It's best delivered.
The exact same thing, yeah.
And Ash, my wife, was like, let's watch the trailer. And I was like, nah, no, let's go in blind.
Good move, yeah.
I don't know why. I think it was maybe in the synopsis. It felt like one of those, like, it's going to gradually unfold kind of movies. But it's interesting how there's so many films, and we've got Midsummer, out last week in Australia. So many films referencing cults, and this film, had that cult aspect to it as well. And I felt like it dealt with it in a really, really interesting way, and the characters, the unreliable narrator or something to like that effect, it wasn't quite the unreliable narrator, but you were seeing this film through the lens of this character, and you weren't sure. You were on the journey with him, guessing what was going on.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where
he's an audience surrogate.
The protagonist character is unsure of what's happening or thinks something might be happening that might not be happening, and the audience has no more information than the character necessarily.
Exactly.
And it straddles that line perfectly for as long as it possibly can.
And then it unloads, and it's like that is so. In terms of pacing, that is artful. I feel
brilliantly done. That's one of my, when people ask me just for a general movie recommendation, and there's someone who's really into movies, like stuff that's a bit more out there, people who I know can take something a bit more intense, maybe. That's one of the ones, along with like Ex Machina or Under the Skin.
That's like your little ace card.
Yeah, one of those little ones I got in the back of my head. Just like, there you go, you'll like this.
Yes.
This is really cool.
Yes.
So I'm glad you finally got around to that.
Yeah, I 100% agree, guys. If you're listening, of course you're listening at home. If you're listening in the car, wherever you're listening, in the bathtub, I don't know.
Not in the bathtub. That's dangerous.
Yeah,
don't watch that.
No, it's cool. Wherever. Go watch this movie. If you're looking for a thriller, dial this in, man, because this is it's only about 90 minutes as well. It's 100 minutes. A really, really good one to watch. So that was me for the week. We got some news to catch up on. Alrighty. And that news is movie related.
It is. It's honestly mostly Disney related as well.
The Disney podcast.
Yep. So first up, Disney Plus. We have some news. It will launch with over 300 movies as well as 7,000 television episodes. I think we've heard this before. It'll be at $6.99 per month American, and will launch on November 12th. And they've also announced a Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus bundle for $12.99 a month. And now that is the same price as the kind of standard Netflix one. So for what you're paying for Netflix, you could get Disney Plus and a couple other things as well.
That is such an aggressive pricing strategy.
They are coming in hot. But anyway, 300 movies, 7,000 episodes of TV. First question, what percentage of that do you think will be anything worthwhile? If we're looking at TV, they've probably got like how much of that 7,000 TV episodes is going to be like Disney kids, like the Disney like tween shows? It's got to be about 4,000.
Let's go for 6,000
and 500.
And then I don't know how many episodes of The Simpsons there are. Let's go for about 700. So that's where it's 6,700. The last 300 episodes, that's where you're going to get some good stuff.
Yeah.
This is an unprecedented amount of content. Obviously we're getting the Disney back catalog of everything, all the animated movies and whatnot. We'll see how that all unfolds. But 300 movies, that's a lot of content.
For straight out of the gate, that's pretty good. And they said by the end of 2020, I think they want to be up to... I couldn't work out the wording if they wanted to get up to 400 or if they wanted to add another 400. I'm assuming up to 400, but... this thing is going to rock the world. And that's not to mention what they're clearly putting forward as the big selling point, which is all the original content that's going to be flowing out over the months and years, which is, all the Marvel and Star Wars stuff, which is just a huge card to play.
It's very interesting. The story later on is about the Disney quarterly earnings call and Bob Iger talking about Fox, but, Bob Iger and his recipe for success has been all about IP. Build the IP up, and once the brand is strong. I mean, look at Marvel, man. It was only 11 short years ago, they were launching with Robert Downey Jr., who's potentially could have gone wildly wrong. And to see where it's come now, that's brand building. That's insane stuff. So. It's crazy, and then to boot, having Hulu and ESPN, that's pretty insane, man. Like Netflix can't compete in that fashion. They can compete with Hulu directly, like that's more of their direct kind of competitor out of those three. But Disney Plus and ESPN, that's a whole different vertical niche of content.
Yeah, which Netflix has never shown any sign of even wanting to compete with. So that's huge. And even without those things, just the price alone of just Disney Plus, like that's such an easy, like, not even I need to choose this on Netflix. Like I have Netflix and I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
So if enough people jump on board with that and it's strong enough, people could so easily, I could see just being like, man, most of these Netflix originals are not very good. But I'm loving Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I'm just going to get rid of that one.
See ya.
Yeah. Although, I don't know, it's crazy. I have Netflix Stan, the Australian Netflix, and Amazon Prime and Anime Lab at the moment.
Wow. And you're paying for Anime Lab?
Yeah. Yeah. I got
really?
it. I got it. I can't remember why exactly. I think it's to watch Shin Godzilla maybe. And
I bought the free one.
Yeah, it was for something I needed to watch in English or without ads. I don't know. But I'm just too lazy to drop any of them.
Yeah.
And I
know
watch.
the feeling.
I never use more than one of them a week. It's probably just one of them each week, and it's a different
So you
one.
probably chalks up $50 there a month or something.
I don't need to know that.
Simple arithmetic, my friend.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like if I had to drop them, first would be Anime Lab because everything on there is already free. I don't know why I'm paying for that right now.
Yeah.
Then honestly, at this point, Netflix might be second on the chopping block. Yeah, because
before Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, I've been scrolling through lately, and just has a lot of kind of cool new release movies that I haven't been scrolling past for 12 months. The past 12 months, like Netflix.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, man, I've seen everything of note on here that is not pumping out too much more interesting stuff. And Stan, I honestly Stan. I stand Stan. It's pretty good content wise.
You changed, man.
Hey, they changed. They
listen to
sorted
me.
themselves out. Yeah,
Listened.
yeah. They took my advice of getting good.
Get your shit together, Stan.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Always not coming to the party.
Yeah.
What do you think? Final thing that came to mind with this is like esports. Esports is getting huge, man.
Yes.
Like, why don't Netflix consider dipping their toes into that and really carving out something there? Because I don't know ESPN's catalog, but that's a huge entity in the world of sports in America. I don't know how big their coverage is on esports, but anything. Do you follow anything in that space? Or
look, I watch a bit of like Smash Brothers stuff on YouTube, and
you're not on Twitch or anything like that?
No, not at all. I mean, that's a free coverage. I don't know. I don't know so little about this field. I don't know what they would even offer.
Yeah, same.
In a paid sense, But it's definitely something they should be considering because, like you said, a huge market.
It's getting massive.
Yeah.
Nike signed their first esports person for sneakers.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Let's not
Are
get
they
into
built
that.
for speed or for comfort? Who knows?
Let's not get into that world.
Maybe both.
Next up, Disney's The Lion King, our favorite film here, is officially...
Number one.
Now, there's a couple of caveats to this one. It's officially their highest-grossing live-action release that is not Marvel or Star Wars related, or if you don't consider it live-action, which it's really not, it's their highest-grossing animated film of all time.
So it's their highest grossing film that's not related to Marvel or Star Wars, basically.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one murdered it in the 90s, almost racked up $1 billion, which is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
So this was bound to crack $1 billion. I think we said that from the get-go.
Yeah, well, all year I've been saying this was going to be the second highest grossing film of the year, without question. And then when it came out and the reaction was more mixed than I'd anticipated, certainly critically, I thought I might have to eat my words on that one. I was like, there's been a few big surprise hits this year, such as like Aladdin, which, another Disney one, but and plenty of other failures. But yeah, lo and behold, I checked the other day. I'm like, oh no, it's very firmly second highest grossing film of the year.
$1.34 billion.
That is not too shabby. Disney must be very pleased with themselves right now. What the top 10 of the year? They've got like 5, 6, 7 movies in it already before Star Wars even comes out.
I mean, it's a juggernaut. It's an absolute juggernaut, and it's kind of a little bit underwhelming to see that the fact that they're able to succeed financially at that level with something that feels like quite phoned in a way. It's
in every
strategic.
Way.
It's
preying on nostalgia.
Strategically, business-wise, it's very, very smart. But creatively and from a filmmaking level, it's not smart at all. It's very unintelligent. It's very sophisticated, but it's not. It's just missing that heart. It's missing that little bit of vitality.
It's hollow. Full disclosure, I haven't seen the whole film. I've seen bits and pieces of it through the marketing and through working at a cinema. I've seen plenty as well. But I just think it's completely creatively bankrupt. Like it really saddens me every time I see a frame of that movie. And it really feels so gross the way that they're profiting this much off putting out something that is just a shot-for-shot remake with, in my opinion, significantly less artistry.
Yes, but in terms of technical innovation, tip your hat to it.
That means nothing to me.
Yeah,
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
We already have real lions out there. God made them. Stay out of it, Disney.
God's the best. Yeah. Fuck, man. Like, like these things. It's just so. Like we were talking about the Lighthouse trailer last week. And that's really when I'm starting to get a real kick out of movies. A few years ago, big budget, and I still love big budget. Like that's some of our main shtick here on the podcast. There's not a day I won't be in watching Star Wars day one. The every fucking Star Wars that comes out from now on. But something like The Lighthouse, man, where it's black and white, it's 4:3 ratio, it's on film, it's two dudes in a dark set. Something very atypical, but that's where I'm like...
Connor is yelling at the screen.
I'm like salivating, man.
Yeah, exactly the
same. And I'm like, I'm getting old. I might not look it, but I'm getting old.
I think a big part of it too is just through the podcast, we have to watch every one of these goddamn blockbusters that come out. And so many of them, especially this year, I would say, had so little to bring to the table, creatively, artistically, however.
To me, this year feels like a tipping point. Like with the amount of blockbusters that have failed, it feels like it's that streaming is really taking weight. Disney's moving into that. This sort of hybrid approach of having content on streaming and having content in the cinemas and tailoring it for those audiences. Like it seems to be going more 360. Like the cinema... it's not just going to go straight. It's not going to do in the cinema for 6 weeks and then hits Blu-ray and it's available on iTunes. Like the release strategy over the next few years is really going to be inverted, and I feel like we're really seeing it this year.
I would love to know what lessons Disney is taking away from this stuff, because this year alone they've already had 3 live-action remakes. Dumbo failed pretty miserably. The 2 that were based on already very successful 90s films have done absolute gangbusters.
90s, baby.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, are they seeing the nuances here that, where the money's coming from? Because I think that's kind of a bad thing, because then it's going to prey on nostalgia even more. I never got to talk about the Mulan trailer. I was away for that one.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that looked pretty cool. I thought that was such a step in the right direction for what they're doing with all of these remakes, because it was so far removed from the original.
That's so good to hear, man. Because I felt like it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Or fresh of breath air, as Connor said last week. Thanks for that, Anthony Teresa. That was a good comment. It felt like that's what I wanted to see from a live action. Like that's kind of the MO. Like we want to see it updated, given a bit more of a sophisticated real world vibe.
Yeah, play to the strengths of the form.
Yeah.
Like if they'd just gotten someone to play a little cartoon dragon again, that would have just felt silly and hollow. But yeah, it looks like they're just taking in a cool direction. I hope that they can keep doing more in that way. Even with like Maleficent coming up again this year, that's not in any way a direct remake of anything that's come before. Sleeping Beauty is one of the most beautiful pieces of animation ever put to the screen. It was such a labor of love that it nearly bankrupted Disney Studios when they released it. Just to put that as exactly as it was, but kind of less beautiful maybe on screen, that would suck. But just to do a different spin on it, it's so much more intriguing.
I completely agree.
Yeah, but the biggest one they've ever done is Lion King, so they're probably going to keep doing that.
And this ties pretty perfectly into this next story because our boy Bobby Iger had a few things to say, and he has a few ideas for himself.
Yeah, so Disney just had its quarterly earnings call with their shareholders, and basically seems like the entire thing was putting Fox on blast for not living up to expectations. Or it feels like this must have always been the plan, right? Because the writing was completely on the wall for Fox's slate of movies coming up in this quarter. We're talking mostly about X-Men: Dark Phoenix being a massive failure. They knew this when they bought the studio. It feels like this is just a way for them to continue laying everyone off, and then all they've got left is the IPs, which is what they really bought.
Exactly. So evidently, this is the quote from Bob Iger. Oh, what are you doing, internet? So during the call, he said the Fox studio performance was well below where it had been and well below where it... Oh my goodness, where has it gone? What are you doing? So many ads on this Variety website. God, fuck. I'm in digital marketing. I kind of hate myself right now. Fuck, so many banner ads. Holy shit. Was well below where it had been and well below where we had hoped it would be when we made the acquisition. Iger's tone was measured, but his message was clear. Shape up. Now, this is in the Variety article. This is a quote from a Hollywood producer, quote unquote. I've never seen a public hanging like that. So quite hyperbolic, but I think, directly referencing Fox and putting a lot of pressure on the head of staff there, who let me find her name. Emma Watts. Emma Watts, she's holding that position and they've got to figure some shit out.
It's an assassination. Like, this is Disney just saying, all right, we've got what we wanted. You can all go home now. It's really brutal, but it's not wrong. I think in the article it also mentioned that if they had not been bought by Disney, they'd pretty much have a for sale sign outside the place right now anyway, because of how poorly they've been performing.
Do you think at all, if the acquisition hadn't happened, that everyone would have that kind of, Dark Phoenix is a dumping ground? Like, I think that played into it to some degree. To what degree, we'll never know.
Yeah, it's really hard to say, isn't it? Because I honestly don't think it would have done any better anyway. Because it really
wouldn't have been drastically different.
No, the narrative would have maybe been a little different in some ways. But
and Stuber as well didn't do well.
Shocker.
And another one which happened last weekend, The Art of Racing in the Rain. I'm not even across that one. Total flops. So, they've fully got them in the crosshairs right now.
So, X-Men in the MCU coming up.
They're like, Bob Iger invites Feige around for dinner. Thank God, man. Thank God we got you to sort this shit out.
We got him.
Thank God you read those comic books, you fucking nerd. So I think it seems to be that Disney are really going to shake things up, and they are going to reboot basically all the properties. So I don't know if we're going to get that Ridley Scott Alien Covenant 2, whatever you want to call that. I think they're basically saying, like, we're rebooting everything here. Wipe this shit out. Clear house.
They just announced a few projects for Disney Plus, a few reboots they're doing. Home Alone, among a few other things. Really fairly...
Night at the Museum,
Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Like, not like brands, certainly, but just not like the biggest pulls you could ever think. But it's just
Disney
like,
they're
just doing it. It's like, these are Disney now. We're kind of wiping the slate
crazy.
clean. Yeah.
Did you see Macaulay Culkin's tweet?
Yeah.
That was fantastic, man.
He did it like the real version of 2019.
I love where he appears on Red Letter Media. He's great.
Oh, yeah. So that's...
Also, New Mutants as well. Evidently, New Mutants, they were really not happy with, the executives. So that's a massive shame, because that trailer, I kind of never want to see New Mutants now, because it's such a fucking clusterfuck. I'd rather just keep that trailer. It was so perfect. I was so filled with anticipation and joy the first time. You could take that, that little tear of joy, feed it to something, and it would grow. It would grow a tree. That's how pure that anticipation was. And now, I think it's been too manhandled. I think it would have devolved, and that's just not going to work well.
I think it's covered in dust. I don't think they've touched it since they put it under wraps because,
Okay.
Maisie Williams has come out and said, it's like, yeah, everyone's talking about reboots. I haven't been contacted. And I'm like 4 years older now. I don't look anything like the same person. There's no way they could go back and reshoot any of that movie.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting if it never sees the light of day because when's that happen?
Hey, I don't think we talked about the It film doing the de-aging. So a big part of their budget is going towards de-aging the kids.
Yeah.
Because they're 2 years older and they're like in that, 14 to 16 age where, 2 years later you're fucking 5 foot taller.
Yeah, they're all adults suddenly. Yeah, that's interesting.
Has anyone done it that way? Going backwards? It's always, I guess, Irishmen, so. But like a kid.
With children, that seems like it'd be its own task.
I'm interested to see how that turns out and if we get any discrepancies there.
Yeah, and even if it was necessary, because I feel like they would have started shooting pretty soon. When are the flashbacks going to be set exactly? Surely not before or during the last film.
Because Finn Wolfgang...
Wolfhard. Do not disrespect the greatest name ever put on a birth certificate.
Wolfpack. He looks fucking different, man.
Mm.
He changed within like a 3-month period.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, just a little tangent there. We can move on to something else now.
Alrighty. In brighter news, I don't know. Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss have signed an exclusive deal with Netflix in the wake of a bidding war for the duo, which saw at least 6 studios, including Disney and Amazon, vying for them. So somehow they are still a hot commodity in Hollywood.
Yeah. After all the stuff that happened with Game of Thrones, I thought everyone would be kind of like, this is no way. Like we're done here. Like the public in the zeitgeist, these guys are hated, and they've kind of ruined a jewel of a series. Like everyone thinks it's these guys who did it. Who knows who it actually was? But the narrative is that these guys fucked up Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like it was their names right on the top there. And if you look at all of just the interviews and shit with them, all the like after the Thrones shows or whatever, none of it comes across well for them. Like they really do come across as people who just got lucky and when they got enough power, fucked everything up. But who knows what the actual truth of the matter is. But if you were to search their names and look at every single result over the past year, it would be 10% about them trying to sign a deal with whatever studio and 90% just people vilifying them.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know what is in this for Netflix right now. I guess there's probably a segment of people out there who are less vocal and would just be like, oh yeah, Game of Thrones, and just associate with a good thing. But
yeah, I mean, it's a smart move for Netflix in one way. And these guys, maybe from more of a showrunner perspective, they're a better asset than a writer. But I'm not fully aware of what their creative involvement with Game of Thrones, so I can't really comment on that. But I think it's interesting that Netflix were in a bidding war with Amazon, Disney, 6 studios in total, and they decided to throw, I think, $200 million at them.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that
9
Netflix
figures.
thinks that sort of investment in these guys is a good business deal at this stage. That's quite intriguing to me. Like, I want someone like Lego Movie,
Lord and Miller.
Lord and Miller,
Yeah,
like, that's
who
kind
recently had a similar
and they had this
deal.
pretty comparable deal. Like that seems like money well spent.
with Sony.
These guys only have one thing under their belt. Like, what else have they got on their resume? As I said, I'm not fully across their careers and whatnot, but it seems like not the best move.
Well, they wanted to make that Confederate show, which got blasted for months on end on the
Do you
internet.
know? Can you explain at all, like the bullet points of that? Or?
It was just like an alternate present sort of series where the Confederate Army had won the Civil War.
Oh, right.
And, where it spun off from that, kind of like Man in the High Castle, sort of alternate
Right, okay.
present.
And the Confederate flag has a lot of connotations.
Yeah, and people were like, especially, with the politically charged climate we all live in nowadays, people were just like, what the fuck are these people thinking? Like, you really think this is the right thing for now? And who knows what they actually would have done with it, but it was very controversial at the time. All plans were immediately scrapped. But yeah, other than that, I have no idea what their output really is. I don't really understand these studios kind of getting these like, one or two people in these massive deals. It's like, I don't know, it feels kind of wrong-headed to me. Like, I mean, who out there creatively is like that strong of a figurehead that they can be in charge of this stuff? Like, even Lord and Miller, like yes, they have a very diverse range of stuff they've done, and I think all of it's pretty much great. But there are so many factors to that. It's a team, yeah. It's not just these guys.
You look at Nolan, you look at Fincher. Those guys work with the same editors, sound designers, special effects, visual effects, production designers,
studios. In
they,
a lot of times.
It is so much a team effort in this filmmaking game. They're not musicians. They haven't got just a guitar and a microphone and can go and jam out an album. That's not how it works in this space. So I'm completely with you, man. Like, and maybe they bring those assets along with them. Maybe they bring those relationships, and that's part of the quote unquote deal. But yeah, I mean. I'm not sure, man. I don't think this is a good move.
It's $200 million for the honor of putting out a trailer saying Netflix, a new series from Benioff and Weiss, the guys who bought you Game of Thrones. It's like, hey.
From the creators of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, that
Boo
fucking
earns.
thing.
Boo earns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to follow up on Venom 2 here. According to director Andy Serkis, Tom Hardy was very involved in the writing for the story with returning Venom co-writer Kelly Marcel. So we discussed this recently, that Andy Serkis had signed on to direct, and had a quick convo about what we thought were the strengths and weaknesses of the first film and how they could kind of develop that for the sequel, and if they were going to really attempt to take what at least the two of us sort of appreciated about that first one.
I really want to watch it again.
Continue. I really do as well. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it then.
So I think this is encouraging because I think a lot of what I liked about the first one was stemming entirely from Tom Hardy.
That's it.
His performance as both the symbiote and Eddie Brock, and their relationship. I'm sure the director had some level of involvement with that, the writer, but what I was just seeing first up on screen was how he was doing it. I'm like, I really like this relationship.
I completely agree, man. I really hope that Tom Hardy has kind of put his hand up for this and said, I get this character. The script could have been better in that way. We've had a trial run now with Venom 1, proof of concept, nice box office haul. Leave this with me because I've got a vision here. And he seems like the kind of guy to do that. And, I'm really excited to see where it goes here because he was the best part of it. Can they not only dial that in even more, but get everything around Venom and Eddie Brock better? And maybe Tom Hardy saw those problems. There's a lot of opportunity for improvement. As much as I love the first one, it's got a lot of problems.
I spent like 20 minutes the other day trying to think of if the bad symbiote had a person in it and who that was. I just realized I literally never came to a conclusion. I just remembered right now that it was Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, it was Riz Ahmed.
Like, okay, cool. All right. Memorable film. So the first one had a lot of really interesting intentional, unintentional queer subtext in it. And people very hotly debate whether this was intended in any way, if it was cynical queer baiting, if it was actually something they wanted to pursue for the story, which there is some precedent in the comic books. And Tom Hardy is a very interesting actor. He's made a lot of comments over the years about his sexuality, or rather non-comments about it, which makes me think that he is a really good force to be kind of driving this character, and gives me some hope that they will pursue that avenue in an interesting way, because it is so unheard of in the kind of superhero film realm. Even a kind of romance of any kind is just so not touched upon nowadays. The MCU has kind of left that as a thing of the past almost.
We talked about that in the rankings episode. Steve Rogers in Civil War kissing Agent Oldmate.
Yeah, Agent 13.
Cap, he's getting pretty tight with Bucky. He's getting pretty schmoozy with Bucky. Can't let everyone know that, he likes Bucky in a non-platonic way.
Yeah, just just jammed in there for seemingly no good reason. I like that Tom Hardy appears to care about this character. I think that's fun and kind of speaks to the strength of the first film. I really hope this turns into a series that can win over some of the detractors even.
I think it can. I love that press conference when Tom Hardy, it's in all the sort of, celebrities slam the press or whatever videos on YouTube. And the guy's like, this journalist sort of like, would you like to comment on your sexuality? And Tom Hardy's like, what the bloody hell are you on about, mate? And he says it in the most calm, fuck you demeanor. And it's so embarrassing. He just makes this guy look like such an asshole. And it's so well handled. And I think he's a very interesting guy. Yeah. So I'm keen to see how this one shapes up.
Have you seen his old MySpace?
He's got a MySpace.
A MySpace, yeah. Everyone out there, look it up. I don't know if it still exists, but there's definitely a lot of articles about it. It's really funny. It's just...
Isn't he like a crack dealer?
It's very much like him as a kind of lower class person.
Lower socioeconomic.
And everything that entails, yeah. And I think he has a cool dog as well, but check that out. Finally here... why is this last? This is the biggest news of the week. Paramount and Hasbro are developing a new G.I. Joe live-action movie spin-off, in addition to the Snake Eyes film that they're already producing.
Snore.
So, yeah, not much to talk about here. Have
You're the G.I. Joe guy.
No, I'm not. Have you ever been into G.I. Joe in any capacity?
Honestly, it's one of those things that I didn't even have an Action Man. But I didn't even really know about G.I. Joe.
More of an American thing, really, I think.
But it's huge in America.
Yeah. So we have had 2 live-action G.I. Joe films. I'm, if anything, I guess an apologist for them. I really like the first one, Rise of Cobra, directed by Stephen Sommers. I think he's a brilliant kind of B-movie blockbuster maker. He did Van Helsing and The Mummy.
I didn't mind it.
I've got a real soft spot for that movie. I think it's a lot of fun. Great cast.
There's some shots in there where it literally looks like toys on a carpet.
It was intentional.
I think it was, and I appreciated that. Like Thunderbirds-y almost.
Yeah. The sequel, which was kind of a soft reboot, they killed everyone off at the beginning.
That's right.
And then sort of had reshoots with Channing Tatum come back because he suddenly got really popular from Magic Mike.
That's right.
And they had The Rock in there, and that movie was much more of a mixed bag. I did like a lot of elements of it. One of the elements I did not like was the planet-destroying bullets, where they shot a bullet at London and just destroyed all of London.
A
giant. Yeah, it was essentially just they'd shoot giant bullets at cities and destroy the whole city.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah,
it's kind of so dumb.
Yeah,
that it's awesome.
It is kind of at that level.
But when you watch it, it's not, man.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
then
not.
Then they have the whole Snake Eyes and Stormbreaker, running across the cliff, all the big ninja battle.
I missed that.
That's good shit. So first up, of course, we have the Snake Eyes movie coming, starring Ray Park again as Snake Eyes.
Oh yeah, Ray Park's in that. Ray Park, Darth Maul himself, and Toad in X-Men 1.
Another character he gets not to speak for, just like Darth Maul.
Fantastic.
That's someone else's
voice.
That's
the only way I want it.
I don't know what they're going to be able to do with that movie, but this new one that they're developing is apparently going to be about a character called Chuckles, which I'd never heard of before. But supposedly he's an infiltrator, and the movie would be about him working his way up the ranks in Cobra, the organization. So it's essentially The Departed, but with G.I. Joe characters, which I think sounds so incredibly fun.
If they can pull it off, is this a reboot, or is it in the same universe?
It must be in the same universe if they're doing a Snake Eyes movie, which I think still has Ray Park in it.
Because I quite liked the world they set up.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it.
I like how it's colorful and all these different characters. And they all have a gimmick. It's kind of fun. It's like what Transformers aimed for and never really got to. And this premise alone, I think, is just ripe for mining so many fun things. Like someone, like a good guy, working their way up through an evil organization, like a cartoonishly evil organization. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, we'll see when the time comes. It's probably gonna be shit. What time is it, Georgie?
It's trailer time.
Oh my.
Oh baby. Are you gonna do it?
No.
Okay, first up, woohoo! We've got Haunt. Now, this was an interesting one. This kind of looked like a combination between Saw, The Strangers,
Hostel,
The Purge.
Yeah.
I quite like the look of this. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed to have something a little more distinct about it than half the masked clown horror slaughter fest that you get.
Definitely. It did look like a more stylishly produced one of those, but still very much one of those. And Eli Roth's name pops up as a producer credit there.
Which for me is not like an endorsement or something of a positive thing.
No, because it just immediately said to me that this is going to be just kind of real nasty, gory, violent, ugly stuff. I had not watched this trailer before just then. I'd seen an image and I thought it was going to be more of a supernatural thing, which I'm more inclined to be interested in. If this is just a bunch of dickheads murdering people, I'm like, we get enough of that in the real world.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah, but like you said, it looks well done.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like there was a level of sophistication in the production design, the masks, the lighting, the look of the sets. It just kind of seemed elevated than your stock standard sort of direct-to-DVD horror schlockfest. So yeah, that one was Haunt. Now we're going to move on to the second one. Dolemite is my name. Now this is Eddie Murphy making it back to the big leagues
again
for the sixth time.
Everyone remember Tower Heist?
Oh my
with
God.
Matthew Broderick.
Oh my fucking God. We'll shut this podcast down now. Fucking hell. Tower Heist. That's a trip back. I'm loving this. I'm loving the look of this.
Yeah, so true story of the man who went on to become Dolemite, in the film of the same name. I mostly want to talk about this because I feel like a segment of our listeners would be of an age where they don't remember a world where Eddie Murphy is one of the biggest stars in existence, and he just kind of disappeared. Like he made a string of very bad movies.
Yes,
Pluto Nash and what have you, and
Haunted Mansion.
Then just nothing.
Yeah,
he'd pop up every now and then in something like Dreamgirls, and everyone would be like, "Hey, he's great again." But then he
got a lot of bad press.
Yeah,
with Mel B from the Spice Girls.
Yeah.
The kid that he never.
Yeah.
He disowned the kid essentially, but I think he's reconnected there. I'm not sure. It's one of those things that I struggle with a lot. Is like the artist, the art versus the artist.
Because every celebrity is a bad person, and probably every person.
Yeah,
is a bad
I'm a horrible person, so how can I judge anyone else?
But they're so in the public sphere.
But he is at his craft. This guy is fucking incredible. Just as a human being, there's some things that left to be decided. So I'll never will be able to watch Raw, that stand up of his from the 80s. I'll never be able to watch that and get as much enjoyment as I did when I was 14 years old when I watched it with my granddad, and we were just in tears laughing.
Yeah. If he had died the day after he shot Raw, you still wouldn't be able to watch it the same way because there's a lot of questionable material in that nowadays.
There's so much questionable material.
But I absolutely get what you're saying.
And it's so not 2019. It's just not in vogue. It's not part of the collective consciousness to think in the way that he does in that. But it's fucking hilarious, man, some of the shit he comes up with. And in terms of delivering jokes, this guy is unbelievably talented.
Well, that's the thing. He was an A-grade superstar in stand-up comedy and in acting at different times. And both of them he's virtually retired from. I know stand-up he said he's never going to go back to because how's he going to follow that?
Well, I heard he's coming back.
Oh, yeah. Isn't someone trying
Netflix.
to pay him a lot of money to do it?
I think he's got 3 coming up.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
He lied. He's a bad person.
But in terms of this itself, the cast is awesome.
Wesley Snipes, another kind of huge guy who disappeared for very different reasons.
Hey, don't forget about Demolition Man. Never forget. like I'm really excited for this.
This looks cool, yeah, especially for a Netflix film. Cool cast,
And also,
cool premise.
like I'm not into these biopics. I'm done. I'm over it. But this looks fucking awesome.
It's
cheerful. It's fun. It's something different. It's got a bit of a risque element to it, as well. So,
and it has not only an interesting story, but a very interesting subject, which you need at least one for a half decent biopic.
Totally,
it's got both of them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Next up, we've got A Hidden Life.
Terrence Malick.
Oh yeah. I literally like, I was like, what the fuck was this?
Too hidden.
Yeah, this looks pretty Terrence Malick-y.
It looks very Terrence Malick.
He has a so like recently I've started a little like side business, like a videography business for restaurants and stuff, and had to really get my head around lenses and stuff. Something that it's never
not pornography.
Wink. And I've never understood lenses, but now I've got a much deeper appreciation. And when I'm watching films, I'm kind of thinking about lenses now. And in this, he's using such wide lenses. You know, he's using a 10 mil or an 18 mil, like, you know, really, really wide. And it's so fascinating to see him just kind of stick to that really all-encompassing image. Like even when he's in on the baby and the dad, you know, he's just using that lens, and it's kind of sucks you into this canvas of an image. I mean, it's so interesting how distinct he is with his sort of visual palette.
Yeah, you would know immediately this is a Terrence Malick film.
And the production design, the grading looks really nice. It's got that Dunkirk kind of desaturated World War II look. But in terms of like Terrence Malick in narrative storytelling, he kind of loses me a lot of the time.
I'm pretty sure all I've seen is Tree of Life, which I did not like at all, except for that one extended sequence that anyone who's seen it knows which one I'm talking about, which was amazing.
Just YouTube that if you haven't watched it, like the Dawn of the Universe or the Big Bang sequence.
Yeah. And the rest of the movie left me very cold.
Yeah.
Which a movie of that subject should not, because it was meant to be a big emotional kind of quintessential human story.
And there's a part of me that kind of like there's something, and obviously this is just the trailer, but there seems to be a lack of nuance in this. Like Nazis are bad, and Nazis govern the country that we live in, and when like, you know, it'll be interesting to see the presentation, but it's very, very complex what happened in Germany, you know, in that period of time, and where it was economically, the level of patriotism. You know, obviously there was a certain sects of people. You know, it wasn't like everyone in Germany was endorsing what the Nazi was doing.
Well, that seems to be what this is tackling.
Huge resistance, of course. But I want to see like what the angle they go, because in this it seemed like almost like in a preachy way, you know, and it's like it's interesting to examine what was going on at that time, and I would like to see how they go about that, because to me in this trailer it just seems like a little bit one-noted.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty interesting, but I just know that if it comes out that this movie is like 3 hours long, I'm just gonna be like, I'm probably not gonna, because I don't know if I can take that much Malick again. Yeah.
Number 4, probably my favorite of the week, Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. This is a lot of money on the screen.
Yeah.
Like they've really gone to town on this one.
Yeah, they've so clearly just dedicated themselves to being like, this is going to be the puppet thing for this generation, because it's not a thing that happens anymore. And surely they're not trying to position this as a revival, because nothing's going to bring that back. I hope on the strength of just the craft alone that this is successful, because it looks so beautiful.
It is just gorgeous.
Yeah, and even if it's like the original, where it's just an amazing production that honestly is kind of a bit of a snooze, I still think it'll be worthwhile, because like I said, no one's doing this.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. You know, the first one, it's lacking in narrative, but it's so special in other ways. And I think it seems like they're rectifying that in this. It seems like there's a lot more story here. And they're really trying to uncover the world. I'll be interested to see how many episodes this ends up being. I'm sure it'll be more like 6 or 8.
Hopefully.
Rather than 13. I'm not really keen to see, big peek behind the curtains of, the origin stories of the Dark Crystal, but I'm really keen to just revisit this world and see what else is going on here.
Yeah, I hope I would really love it if they released like a companion series behind the scenes stuff, because everything that happens at Jim Henson Studios is fascinating, and I think that would be probably the most interesting way to watch this.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's the good stuff. Finally, the last trailer of this week, Titans Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the worst trailer I've watched this year in terms of editing.
Which is impressive, because last year the worst trailer was Titans Season 1.
But way less talked about. This one, yeah,
I didn't even know it came out.
Yeah. So
Titans is a very interesting subject, because
yes, it is.
Everyone knows it as the Fuck Batman show, which had one woeful Comic-Con, I think, trailer that went over very, very poorly.
I lost everyone.
Yeah, and this was meant to be a big flagship title for DC's streaming service, which I don't think is doing well anyway. But basically, no one ended up watching it or covering it. We ended up doing a review because honestly, I couldn't see anyone talking about it.
Literally, there were no reviews out. Literally no reviews.
Yeah, and I felt compelled to make you guys sit down and watch it so we could talk about it, because honestly, the series itself I loved.
It was so good, man.
Yeah, and I still, even after all of our efforts, I still don't see anyone talking about it.
No. It was one of those ones where I was like, Benny, I don't know.
You crazy motherfucker. Man.
I just don't know.
I've been burnt before, Ben.
But I can't tell you. That's that behind. I don't watch a lot of TV series, but that's one of my favorites of the year behind Chernobyl for sure.
Wow.
But this trailer, like the content in it, I'm excited for. Nice to see Bruce Wayne. Let's see how that goes and where this opens up, and it really seems to be expanding the world. But man, this was one of the worst cut trailers I've ever seen in terms of pacing.
The first minute and a half or something was just like a recap of the first season, because I guess they know no one watched it.
And literally the first 10 seconds is just like punch, kick, explosion, kick, explosion, punch.
And they fucked themselves so hard, because if you remember, the first season ended an episode early. Yeah. It ended on a cliffhanger. There was meant to be another episode that wrapped that up, which is so evident from this trailer, because this trailer has to recap the first season up to the point of the cliffhanger, but then the rest of the trailer is just clearly after whatever that was about. Yeah. So it's all solved.
And it said, and then it comes up with text really jarringly. Where are they now? Or
that was then.
That was then. Or
this
something.
Is now.
And I'm like, are you for real?
Yeah.
This is very disappointing, and I hope that this is not reflective of the final product.
Which it wasn't last time, I feel. So,
and I feel that way for this one as well.
Yeah,
this trailer, a shite trailer.
This trailer gets me excited in only so much as it reminded me that season 2 is coming, even though the likes of Swamp Thing got cancelled after one episode.
Yeah,
come on, DC.
Oh well, that's it for trailers. Let's finish up with question of the week, and we have a really nice comment on our Marvel rankings episode, the part 2, which was positions 10 to 1. This is from Jacob Trevaskis / Aura Filmworks. Hey, Jacob. This is great. So he initially came up with the first comment. I like your guys' stuff, but this is a terrible list. And I came back with, a little comment. And then, so Jacob's just basically said to us here, just thought we could have had a little bit more reasoning with some of your lower rankings films that are more beloved by fans, e.g. Iron Man, Guardians 1, Avengers 1. Also, not sure your list aggregate matches up, e.g. EndGame at 3 has from an aggregate of 2, position 2, 6, and 12. So yeah, in the list, guys, we each submitted a list and then we created a master list from those. And the reason why those don't match up, Benny, is...
it was kind of a weighted ranking system. It wasn't just like number 1 gets 10 points, number 23 points, number 2 gets 22 points.
It was like an exponential curve.
Yeah, number one got significantly more points than number two, just because I wanted people to really think about where they were putting, their number one over their number two. Like it meant a lot more than putting it number two.
Emphasizing that, yeah. So that clears that up. Hopefully that explains that one. But yeah, the first half of the question, some of the beloved ones, Iron Man, Guardians 1, Avengers 1, they were lower down our list. It's a tough one because, and I think we've referenced this a lot in the podcast. Like a lot of those positions, sort of 12 onwards to 18 or 19, there's a lot of interchangeable stuff, and I might even rewatch another one of them, and it'll improve it, and then it'll go back to the top.
I would say pretty much any movie from like number 1 to number 18, even upon rewatch, will probably jump ahead of some of the other ones on the list.
You could be right.
It's always in flux based on when I last saw it and what that experience was exactly. Even that number 1 to 18, there's not a movie in there I don't like. So it's basically, if I'm putting something lower on the list, it's just because I like another one more for some particular reason. And I do think we chucked in a fair few minor negatives on just even those three.
Oh yeah, we definitely did. Yeah. And we had about 2 hours, 2 hours 10 for each three of us to give reasons across 23 films. It's not a lot of time to get everything out. And a lot of this, when I was creating a list, it's just going on emotion. It's not going on feeling. It's not really, analytical process.
Things get pretty heated when Connor and I are in the room. Yeah. you can't always be thinking these things through. If you want to talk about it more, please, I could go for another fucking 10 hours on that ranking.
But yeah, I think with reference, I think Avengers 1, that was number 6 in our list. Like it was pretty high up the top. But Iron Man 1 and Guardians 1, those are often heralded as, classics and top 5 or top 10. But Iron Man, for me, on my last rewatch, I was very underwhelmed by. Robert Downey Jr. carries that whole thing, and it really gasses out in the second half. Once he gets out of that cave, or we've gotten to really the first proper suit, that last 45 minutes kind of sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't really hold up to any kind of scrutiny. On
and
any
then
level.
Guardians 1 is just one of being those ones where the novelty factor was so strong when it came out, but then over time it's just kind of not been as good. It's kind of like The Force Awakens. I'll never forget, I was on cloud 9 when I came out of The Force Awakens, and every subsequent viewing has kind of just gone down a little bit. Same thing with Guardians.
Yeah, and then you get some of the Marvel movies that maybe are a little softer on your first viewing. And then you come back to them and you like them more each time. So, some of them, they just kind of move around.
Winter Soldier, that's one for me.
Yeah. And when you watch them as often as we tend to, you get to weird rankings like ours.
I kind of love that ours is weird. If it was just a standard list, Ant-Man was number 5 or something. That made me very happy.
And I love the areas where we deviate from the norm that the three of us agree upon. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
The three of us don't agree upon too much. But when our list is so different from the general consensus, but in an agreed upon way, fascinates me.
The fact that Ultron was ahead of Avengers 1, I'm surprised people aren't raging more on that.
Yeah. Thanks for not giving us just entirely thumbs down on those videos.
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We're wrapping up, and we'll be back next week, and we'll be back for some movie antics. I don't know really what movies are coming out soon, but
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh,
probably talk about that.
Probably even the biggest movie of the year.
Even though it's been out for a month elsewhere in the world. Thanks everyone.
Yeah. There's times when we're living in Australia is great, when you have a Marvel film coming out, and there's times where when you're actually getting films, it's a terrible place to live.
Yeah.
We get everything 6 months later. Bye everyone. Bye Benny.
Bye George.
Bye.